game plan for the Eagles, if there was a way to beat the Chiefs, you got to get to the quarterback. You got to not waste possessions. Don't waste turnovers. Capitalize on mistakes. Mm-hmm. And you got to score early and often. That's exactly what they did. The 3 keys to winning that game. They did that.
Yeah, and Hurts making the throws and the defense playing stellar. I really was impressed with Jalen Hurts and really think he deserves all the credit today. And I still am blown away by this stat of the Eagles didn't blitz anybody outside of the 4. And to get after the quarterback like that and to win the line of scrimmage like that. And I know the Chiefs' offensive line aren't a lot of world beaters on there, but it's still a pretty good unit.
I mean, Mahomes is sitting there
still
in the back.
Pretty good unit.
Mahomes is sitting there in the back acting shocked because that defensive line is mauling his offensive line after 2 weeks of prep.
It's a good unit.
Can't sit there and act all empathetic because the offensive line is not a la the Buccaneer game where he was running for his life as well. There's a certain thing called getting the ball out quickly, mitigating a rush via processing fast. Brady made a career out of it. Brady had a lot of good offensive lines. He also had a lot of poor offensive lines. That Seattle game is something that keeps coming to mind. That was an all-star, a top-of-the-line defense, and he was able to put together a winning performance and beat them.
Do you think maybe the Chiefs look into bringing in a more proven commodity at receiver, maybe a Cooper Kupp or something along those lines?
I mean, I wasn't thinking about that game and thinking that, other than that DeAndre Hopkins drop before halftime.
God.
I wasn't sitting there thinking, they need more help in the receiver. I was thinking, that team needs a little bit of a facelift entirely offensively.
Maybe to get more separation and whatnot. Maybe those decisions would have came quicker. I understand it, but Mahomes wasn't, like we always say, great quarterbacks elevate everybody around them. He wasn't elevating anybody until about, 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
He was
when
a
they
liability.
Got 2 garbage touchdowns.
He was almost a liability in the game.
Let's call for it. I'm going to say it. I think they lost the game because of Patrick Mahomes. Offensive line didn't do him any favors. But to throw those interceptions early in the first half, what's a quick way to give a team a game? Turn the ball over. It's something the Chiefs don't do a lot. And Mahomes turned it over twice in the first half. Very uncharacteristic.
7 interceptions in 5 Super Bowl games. 7 for Patrick Mahomes. Comparatively to Brady in his 10 having 6 interceptions. Yeah. I think it's time we kind of pause on declaring how great Patrick Mahomes is in the grand scheme of NFL history when you realize the body of work and how much he really has to be consistently great. So I'm ready to hit the brakes on that. And listen, I'm not jumping off ship with Mahomes. I'm just trying to establish a little bit of precedent and standard comparatively to what he's being compared to.
We got to be fair. If we're going to sit here and say Lamar played bad in this playoff game, so-and-so played bad in this playoff game, I got to be fair. I got to shoot it straight with you guys. He looked like a deer in headlights. And then,
he stunk.
He was bad. And the offensive line was horrible. I get that. That could, if you're out there, you're a Chief fan, you're a Mahomes guy, if you want to say the whole problem was the line, fine. But he wasn't making good reads. He was hanging on to the ball too long, too much scrambling around. Colin, forgive me, I forget what quarter, but he scrambled out of the pocket and then lobbed it up there to the sideline. And if he would have threw a dart, he would have got a first down. Instead, he lobbed it up, and it was almost intercepted. He could have had 3 or 4 interceptions in that game. So we got to be fair. We got to be fair today. And that kid, Mahomes did not have a good game.
And Reed didn't either. So off of this Super Bowl, it's a shame that the game stunk. It's a shame that totality. Super Bowl is supposed to be an event where you sit down on a Sunday afternoon, you get the food with you, you're with people, whatever it may be. And you're trying to be lauded with a spectacle for about 5 straight hours. The game's longer. You get the halftime show. You get the commercials. You get the big pregame. You get everything. And that, to me, yesterday was a pretty disappointing start to finish. I wasn't impressed with anything I saw on the field. I was impressed with the Eagles. I was impressed with the game. I wasn't impressed with the Chiefs coaching staff. I was not overly impressed with how the broadcast was done, but I thought Brady honestly did a halfway decent job. Comparatively to what we've seen from him in the past. And that halftime show, it didn't make a difference to me. And that was it. That was the takeaway. And it was an uneventful Super Bowl.
Wasn't it 40-7 at one point? It was 40. I think it was 40-7 at one point. And I don't care about these garbage touchdowns at the end. Maybe 40-6. I mean, it was bad, Colin.
It was 40-6.
It was 40-6. It was really bad, guys. And for Colin, myself, and Christian, who didn't have a dog in the fight and didn't have a rooting interest in it. It was horrible. It was one of the worst Super Bowls in recent memory. And what was the game with the blowout game with the Broncos? There were a couple
43-8 when they lost to Seattle.
Yeah, and then the blowout. It didn't. Am I remembering this wrong? Didn't Denver blow somebody out too with the Manning on the white horse riding at it at the end? Those are probably the two
when they killed Carolina.
Yes, those are probably the two I could compare this to. I think this one was worse. And to see a team who was going for a three-peat to play this bad really stuck out to me, and that's why that's why we got to be so hard on the Chiefs today. I'm sorry if we have Chief fans listening. That was unacceptable on a lot of levels.
Can we take a pause on how great the AFC is compared to the NFC? The AFC's big bad apex predator just got walked down the line by the NFC counterpart, and that NFC counterpart, yes, dominated Washington, but you got to assume we were robbed out of that game versus Detroit. Rams played well against them. I think it's a little unfair to give the AFC that much power when the Chiefs lay that type of game. 888-760-3776. A rough Super Bowl for Patrick Mahomes and company. Mike in West Palm, you're on Russo and Rizzo. Mike, what's going on?
Hey, guys. I got a prediction. I think KC might win one more within the next 3 years because of the improvement of the AFC West. And I think that, these guys are going to start chipping away at the regular season record, and they're not going to be able to have home field. And we all know the secret sauce now, and that's pressure on the offensive line. And I really think Pete Carroll, if they can't get the quarterback they want over at the Raiders, if they drafted Abdul Carter and put him next to Crosby and Wilkins, I think they would definitely steal a few from the Chiefs next year. Thanks for taking my call.
All right. Thank you, Mikey.
Appreciate the Raiders, let's take a pause on that.
The Raiders,
I understand. They got the pass rush, but they don't have anything else.
They play them tough a few times in the regular season.
It was the Black Friday game. Played them well.
The
probably should have won that game.
Right. They lost by 7 and they lost by 2. And listen, I understand going back for the Raiders at this point, but who knows?
I don't, but I see. Yes, you're a Raider fan. You think they might steal the Chiefs. Maybe you're thinking the Chiefs are vulnerable, but the Chiefs dominate the AFC. They dominate everybody in the AFC.
Including that division. I mean, how many years in a row have they won that division?
Maybe there was levels to it. It was the perfectly constructed team. They have an excellent roster. They have a mixture of young versus old.
But dominate in terms of winning the games more often than they lose the games, not dominating the games.
I mean, true. But yes, my point is it's 6 years, and we've seen them come out of the AFC or come pretty freaking close.
3 quarterbacks have beaten Patrick.
So, it's his 4th postseason loss. But, I mean, I'm sitting there. One thing about Brady, too, Brady beat him in the AFC title game. Brady beat him in the Super Bowl. And Brady watched him lose when he was on the call.
And maybe the point, I'm going back to Mike from West Palm, our recent caller. Maybe he's fascinated by the Sean Payton, Pete Carroll, and Jim Harbaugh trio of coaches to maybe dethrone and bring down Kansas City a bit. No, Christian?
They cross beams like in Ghostbusters and take down the big bad wolf.
Maybe
keeps a holic.
Maybe I love the Ghostbuster reference. But maybe this is where the Chiefs become mortal. And maybe the proof is in the pudding. Now, Colin, I think you were on this 2 weeks ago. Obviously, the way to beat the Chiefs is to get after Mahomes. That's easier said than done. How did the Eagles be able to get after Patrick Mahomes? Because they've drafted well. They've got good free agents. I mean, the Josh Sweat and Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter was an animal in that game. It kind of has to be a perfect storm, right, to beat Kansas City. And it really was with the defense and Mahomes.